Part 11 Chapter 11 The Afterlife Healing Circle can transform lives by providing much needed resolution, but it is by no means always a resounding success. Those who insist on no mistakes whatsoever most likely will not be satisfied with this method of contacting the other side. For example, Jana once conducted the Afterlife Healing Circle for a woman who insisted that the soul in question recall an exact moment on one particular day during their relationship, and feel about it the very same way she did. The soul was confused and exasperated because the moment did not hold anything close to the significance for the soul as it obviously did for the inquirer. The latter left disappointed, and the others in the group were frustrated that the inquirer kept validating the information they were bringing forth, yet still said it was not enough to satisfy her. Expectations invariably limit our ability to be open and receptive in many profound ways, so it's important to approach the afterlife healing circle with as few expectations as possible. We truly never know what information we will receive or how we will receive it when we contact souls not in physical bodies. In one of our afterlife healing circles that allowed parents to meet their child in the womb, the soul clearly presented a male image and energy and even asked for a boy's first and middle name, to which his soon-to-be parents agreed. Yet a sonogram some weeks later in the pregnancy revealed that the fetus was female. Confused and disconcerted, the mother called us, and Candace did some automatic writing with a soul who calls himself Tribe. Sunan. This loving healer was a physician in his most recent physical lifetime and is one of the leaders of the Sunan Society. Dr. Sunan told Candace that the soul in the womb intended to come in as a little boy, but felt tremendous hostility to that prospect from the expectant father and decided that might not be such a good idea. Dr. Sunan also explained that gender is highly fluid and not determined until much later in a pregnancy than medical science currently understands. The soul thus had the opportunity to change genders and come in as a girl. Candace provided drive. Sunan's account for the gender shift to the mother, who was satisfied with it and just as happy to have a girl. The afterlife healing circle is by no means the only method of soul communication. There is the ancient Greek technique of mirror gazing made popular through a best-selling book by Dr. Raymond Moody. Another best-selling author, James Twyman, was conducting experiments a few years ago in using lucid dreaming for soul contact. Each of these approaches has its own strengths and weaknesses, and may better suit many of us than the afterlife healing circle. It's up to each of us to discover our preferred method, and it never hurts to explore until we find something that feels right and provides the healing and resolution we need. Often our fears or lack of trust make it simply impossible for us to use the afterlife healing circle or any other means of soul contact, at least temporarily. That is when psychics or mediums can step in to assist us. Mark Ireland, ironically the son of a very famous medium in the mid-20th century, Richard Ireland, found mediums enormously helpful to him after the unexpected death of his younger son, Brandon. His first reading was from Alison Dubois before she became a household name through the television series Medium. Mark, an Arizona businessman who authored a book about his search to come to terms with his loss, says, "Mediumship readings, I found, if they're good ones, can be very therapeutic for parents or anyone who has lost a loved one, child or otherwise." He was quick to add, however, that it's not a good idea to rely on mediums or psychics to the point of using them as a crutch. "I think a person has to develop their own sense of spirituality and not become balled up in this shell of grief," he said. We agree wholeheartedly, and know that the experience of using our own soul senses to obtain information from souls not in physical bodies is one of the fastest and most direct ways to grow in our spirituality and self-trust, which are intimately linked. There is no substitute for direct personal experience, however helpful and accurate a psychic or medium might be at pinpointing and delivering details and facts about a departed loved one. Facts and details may somewhat satisfy or even astound the conscious mind, but not the heart and spirit, which have very different needs. When we focus solely on this physical world, we limit ourselves to a material reality and to the physical senses. Materially focused, we may have some vague concept of spirituality or a creative force or energy, but regard it all as far outside of ourselves. God is impersonal and irrelevant to us in our everyday material existence. Materially focused, we believe we are bodies that may or may not have a soul. That soul, if it exists, has no role in daily life. It leaves that physical body at its death and somehow merges with this separate being called God if the physical being has been good during life. If not, some sort of punishment awaits. Materially focused, we generally believe that we have only one shot at life and that if something cannot be seen, heard, smelled, touched, tasted, or measured in some way, then that something does not exist. It is part of that unknown, and whatever is unknown simply does not exist in our thinking as material beings. Rarely do we allow ourselves to feel or even become aware of our emotions because, after all, emotions are frivolous and irrational, which is bad to the materially focused. When we focus solely on the material, our spiritual aspect may or may not be demonstrated through belonging to an organized religion or sect. As a rule, when we are solely focused on physical reality, comes from our validation outside of self. In other words, we have no value except as we prove that value to others. We as materially focused beings measure our self-worth by how much we possess and how much power we exert in the surrounding world. Physically oriented, we are caught up in expressing self primarily through the mental body, conscious mind, and the physical body. The mental body believes that we must push for things in life, that if it's easy, it's not worth it, and that life is very complex and complicated. Perception through the physical senses is limited to appearances, some surface verbal communication, and superficial emotional sensations. Perception limited only to the physical senses lacks the ability to penetrate into the depth of issues or relationships to perceive the whole. When we are focused solely in the physical, we are constantly affected by our environment and the problems of others. We frequently feel empty, a fraud, perhaps, an empty shell expressing ourselves in a lack of self-worth, confidence, and continuity, depending on external experiences both for pleasure and for pain. As physically focused beings, we are slaves to the whims of society's standards and expectations. We also depend on the stimuli of pain and pleasure to believe we are even alive. When we expand our focus to include the emotional and spiritual, however, we recognize first that we are souls that, at this point, dwell in physical bodies. We understand that as created souls, we are eternal, that we have lived before and will always live. We recognize that there is no final compromise, no final solution. When we enlarge our focus, we are aware of the utter simplicity in the truth that we are eternal energy essences that continue to grow in awareness and knowledge until finally we come to realize we are co-creators with God, always have been, and always will be. We know to the core of our beings that we never cease to exist or to create. Spiritually focused, we discern the environment and relationships with other people through our soul perception as well as our physical senses. In consciously employing all of our at least 9 senses, we bring a depth of perception, understanding, and wisdom to the surrounding world. As spiritually oriented beings, we regard this world as a schoolhouse, this lifetime as an opportunity for growth, love, and understanding. We know we can communicate with our own souls through the soul senses and also with God and loved ones not in physical bodies. We also know we are capable of consciously tapping into universal mind at will in order to grow, to understand self, and to understand self in relationship to the surrounding world. As spiritually focused beings, we also know our purpose and direction in the course of this physical world. We are consciously aware of our oneness with the Source, with the One, and perceive the oneness of all as a bonded unity. Our fears of death and the unknown diminish because we can feel the reality that there is no such thing as oblivion, only transformation. We know also that consciousness goes with the soul, that our uniqueness is expressed daily through a physical body, and that we in the physical world are not separate from or lost to spiritual realities. As we expand our focus to include the spiritual, we are better able to affirm physical life through joy and happiness, and no longer feel so much emptiness within. Instead, we experience a profound connection with self, with God, and with all around us, whether people, animals, entities, or other things that exist within the physical and non-physical realms. The afterlife healing circle is a unique way to bridge what may seem an impossible chasm and disconnect between the material and the spiritual. Yet the reality is far more hopeful and loving, and the afterlife healing circle provides personal experience of that hope and love. It's up to us to exercise our free will and open our minds and hearts to the seemingly implausible possibilities the healing circle affords us. As our invisible mentors and friends often bid us, go now in peace and joy with all our love. Appendix: the steps in brief. Before the start, the conductor determines the inquirer's motive in asking for the afterlife healing circle. Make sure it is for healing resolution or to solve a genuine problem that cannot be handled in any other way. The conductor does not ask for details about the soul in question, but does make sure there is an emotional connection between the inquirer and the soul. In soul rescues, make sure there is simply a legitimate connection between the inquirer and the souls in question. For example, the soul is causing problems in the inquirer's home or place of business. The conductor invites 2 to 5 participants and encourages the inquirer to bring a spouse, trusted relative, or friends. The conductor asks other participants to arrive earlier than the inquirer and instructs them that they are to verbalize everything they receive intuitively, no matter how strange. The conductor may play classical or baroque music softly in the background to help relax participants and start raising the energy vibration level. When the inquirer arrives, the conductor makes the introductions and spends a bit of time to ensure everyone is as comfortable as possible. The conductor shares with the group as few details as possible about the soul in question. The conductor shuts off the music if it's playing and seats the group in a circle, with the inquirer opposite the conductor. Alternate people with strong energies and those with softer energies. Put the inquirer's companion or the person with the most loving energy to the inquirer's immediate left. Put the person with the strongest energy to the conductor's immediate left to act as a battery for the conductor to keep the energy moving. Place a box of tissues nearby. The conductor instructs the inquirer to respond to the other participants in one of 3 ways: yes, no, or I don't know. Nothing else. As the circle begins, the conductor tells the seated participants to join hands, each person's right hand covering the palm of the upturned left hand of the person to his or her right. The conductor leads the group in a relaxation meditation, using his/her intuition to sense when participants are as calm and centered as they can be. The conductor asks aloud for protection and asks everyone to verbalize his or her requests for protection. The conductor instructs the inquirer to speak aloud the soul in question's full name twice and nickname once. This can be repeated if needed. In cases where parents have not yet chosen a child's name, simply ask the soul waiting to be born to this mother or parents to come into the circle. During the circle, once the soul in question enters the circle, the conductor reassures the soul that the group has gathered to foster communication between the soul and the inquirer. Other participants may also welcome the soul. The conductor keeps reminding participants to verbalize any information or impressions they are receiving. The inquirer answers only yes, no, or I don't know. The inquirer listens carefully to all information and responds as truthfully as possible. Participants other than the inquirer must verbalize everything they are receiving. If they feel physical sensations and do not speak, they will continue to feel these sensations. Speaking releases the energy. The conductor continues to move love around the circle throughout the session. Once the inquirer is satisfied that the soul the inquirer seeks is in the circle, the group pauses to give both sides time to say what they need to say to each other. The conductor and the other participants may assist here if the inquirer seems hesitant. Once the inquirer and the soul in question have said what they needed to say, the conductor offers a prayer of thanks for the blessings of the healing. If the soul is a departed loved one or an entity that has decided to seek another mother, participants may encourage the soul to move toward the light so that it may continue its path. After the circle, participants release each other's hands and open their eyes. The tissues will be needed and welcome at this point. Before disbanding, the group needs a bit of time to discuss and review the experience. The inquirer may now respond more fully to the information the other participants received and explain its significance. Keep in mind that the afterlife healing circle is free-flowing, and each circle is unique in how it unfolds. As long as participants remember to ask aloud for protection, they can skip or forget every other step and still do just fine. About the author's inner shift specialist, Candace L. Talmadge has been a professional writer since 1976. She has been a syndicated political columnist and has written full-time or freelanced for major print and online media. Candace takes clients to meet their guides, and publishes the Greenstone of Healing speculative fiction series under the byline C.L. Talmadge. Connect with Candace at www.thehealingcirclebook.com. Jana L. Simmons's resume looks like it belongs to several people. She changed industries and fields numerous times over many years until she found her true calling, teaching soul sense development and a unique form of energy healing known as Sunan therapy. Although retired, Jana continues to work with clients on a limited basis. With Candice, she has also co-authored earlier non-fiction that explores emotional healing resolution through Sunan therapy. Connect with Jana at www. Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni Consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.